Welcome to our What's on Your Mind class. Okay, so today we're just going to talk about whatever you feel like. And again, something not very controversial, as that's not my favorite thing. However, Thomas is here, so I might just be quiet during some of these comments, depending on what happens here. So, fantastic. So, Thomas,
I'll behave. I promise I'll behave.
All right, good. Well, we'll see. So to start off, does anyone have anything to talk about? Anything on your mind? Anything? It can be related to English or not. Current events. Anything you'd like to discuss today?
I read the news about maybe new law in America related to internet. It requires, the kind of I forgot the word. Providers give users private information for commercially or third party without consent. That
I
could be
think I heard
controversial
something.
now.
Well, that's okay. I'm talking controversial as in the president of this country where I was born, not. But that's fine. Yeah. So talk to us about that. I think I heard something about it. They're using your personal information or something like that. But what did you hear exactly?
Yes, in the Guardian articles and NPR article says Obama established a law. Provider cannot do that without consent. But
Correct.
new government, new administration, and opposed to the law. That law. So now it is about provider can use their user information for commercially or to give third parties without users' consent.
Okay. And what's your opinion about that?
Maybe for in, law was established here. It requires if the police offer the provider to the people who run the website, you know, to give their IP address or something, the user's information. It is law requires that, but law doesn't require admit commercial use of it for the marketing purpose or. So I think if it is maluse, it could be very dangerous, I think.
Okay. All right. Good. Any other comments, Thomas?
There was something interesting related to this on the British news. As people will be aware, there was a terror attack on Westminster Bridge in London and also outside Westminster, and a policeman was stabbed. And one of the results of that, relating to what Aka just said, is that they want the information from WhatsApp. WhatsApp is at the moment encrypted, so they can't. The government at the moment can't actually read the information. And this guy, I actually forgot his name, which is terrible. The guy who did the terror attack used WhatsApp just before the actual attack. I don't know exactly what for, but so the argument of the Home Office minister is that we should WhatsApp should provide them with a key so that it can be so that they can have access to the information. And of course, it's always a difficult argument, in my opinion. I mean, I'm against it in general, but I can understand how difficult it must be for the police to kind of keep people secure, particularly when it's very ad hoc sort of unprovoked attack and somebody with a little bit of history, but not really in the sense of terror. So on the whole, I think it's probably not a good thing. In particular, what Aka, of course, was saying was also that they would have information about, for commercial purposes. In that sense, it is absolutely not acceptable, in my opinion. For security purposes, I'm probably still against it, but I can at least understand why that might be useful.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, if it's something serious, that a crime has been committed or something, I definitely agree that the police should have access to that information. Now, sending messages to my friends or my family, pictures, of course, the police shouldn't care what I'm writing to my friends. And even if they look for specific words of maybe gun or bomb, you can use those in jokes. You can use them in different contexts, or hello, Wellington, nice to see you. For example, in the United States, we have a saying that's, look at those guns. Guns means like very strong arms. Like, oh, you're using the word guns. And so you can't really do that either. So there's this part of the fine line. Do you let all of this information be available to everyone, or just in certain cases? So I think
I mean, for example, you could have a sentence when you talk about your child saying, "God, she was such a terror today," and before you know it, you suddenly have the police standing outside because
exactly.
they've searched for the word terror. So it's a dangerous. I think on the whole, it's probably not. I would have thought in the United States, it would probably be unconstitutional, and therefore probably won't pass law. I mean, he's announced a myriad of things really, and
that are unconstitutional.
Basically unconstitutional, or he can't get them through Congress like the Obamacare thing. So we'll have to wait and see. He doesn't, in a good sense, he doesn't seem to be dreadfully effective at forcing policies through at the moment. He might learn, of course. So I agree with Akka. Yes, I think on the whole, I think particularly for commercial purposes, this is absolutely outrageous. Having said that, my credit card provider, for example, in the UK and also in Germany, have obviously, or somebody has obviously been passing on my information, because I get things through the post, letters that, how could somebody has given out my information so that I get basically junk mail. So I don't know whether it was the credit card provider. I suspect it probably was. But that's obviously somehow that must already be possible. And Google and Facebook have all of my information. All of the adverts that I get are targeted, very, very targeted now. I'm a bit worried about getting adverts on Facebook about Alzheimer's and stuff like that. So
hopefully you don't research that. Well, I was looking for something to do
I
in
don't
April.
think it was that. I think they look at your age.
You're getting to this point, Alzheimer's. But for example, I'd look for a hotel in a certain area, and I'd go on Facebook a minute later, and there would be the ad for the hotels that I was just looking at. So it's immediate, and yes, it's scary. And what more do they know? So what about everyone else? What do you think about Facebook having, these controls, and they know what you're looking at on Facebook and different ads? What do you think about that? Do you think it's good for them? Not for Facebook, but for the people, businesses, things like that. Alex, Rafa, Ken, and Wellington also, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself and talk. We're just talking about kind of whatever you want today. So, is there a fine line of Facebook advertising? Hi. With what you're looking at online.
May I say my thoughts? I want to return for previous topic what Thomas said. I agree why police want to read some message in WhatsApp and another messenger, but I don't understand. In one case, for example, some bad people, terrorists, might change bomb for another world for example, for book, and also use book, and all filters don't find these messages. It's very easy for go through all filters. I think it will not have particular sense. But if say about advertising and another information which Facebook and etc. How it's safe for this for commerce, and it's very, I think, very useful targeted advertising, more effective than a random showing advertising. But sometimes for people it's very annoying when you show site and for all part you see some banners. I always use some blog banners.
And I mean, it can be good because maybe they can introduce you to something new that's very similar. And I think that's the idea. It's to advertise, but also to have similar ideas. Okay, so if I look at a hotel in this place, maybe there's another hotel nearby or something like that. So it can be helpful, but it's the fact that it's so quickly after, that it shows up on Facebook. That's the scary part to me. Good. Any other opinions?
Yeah, I think, as we are talking about Facebook and you talked about advertising, but of course the other quite scary thing about Facebook is that, for example, if I'm interested in a particular subject, it immediately suggests groups that are similar and associated with the subject. And when it's about controversial issues, and there are many in this world, I think that's dangerous because, when you read a newspaper, for example, you would hope that at least that you get a reasonably balanced view of the world. And of course, in Facebook, all it does is constantly reinforces your own ideas. So, if you're against something, it will find articles or groups or whatever that are also against that, whatever it is. If you're against animal cruelty or whatever, then you suddenly have a whole host of groups suggested to you about animal cruelty. So I think it's risky, I think, and I would prefer if Facebook was a bit more balanced in its view, rather than just trying to reinforce. People who voted for Trump, it might have been on Facebook, they would have only got Trump material, and people who were against it would have only got material against it. Both, I think, is not good.
No, I definitely agree as well. Does anyone else have opinions about that? Any specific circumstances, moments?
Yes, I heard, the very ending of the election campaign, fake news overwhelmed the, fact-based news on Facebook or on the internet. So, it's very difficult now. That I think it could happen in the past, but we have a technology called internet, so we can boost such kind of radical opinion more and more. So it's a scary part of this, happening the social media or internet, nowadays.
Okay, and talking about social media in general, we know there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, etc. Okay, what do we think about social media? I mean, I would hope that all of us are of the age that we remember when social media didn't exist. At least I can say I can. I know Ken and Thomas can as well. But what do you think about this? I mean, how has the world changed? It's really just in the moment. I mean, look at what we're doing with this class. I'm in Spain, Ken's in Japan, Thomas is in Germany, and Alex, I think you're in Russia, Ukraine. Anyway, we're all in different parts of the world. However, at this specific moment in time, we're all communicating. Okay? That 20 years ago maybe it could have happened, but maybe 30 years ago it didn't. That I know it didn't. So Thomas, maybe since you might be the oldest in this group today.
Outrageous thing to say.
Well, I'm probably not the youngest, so. But what do you think about this? I mean, is it good? Is it bad? Life was more simple when I was a child because I was a child. I mean, you were older, and 30 years ago, so you can remember what it to be. I don't want to say any numbers, but old enough to realize what's going on in the world without social media, without real time. So.
Oh boy, social media. What do I think? I think it is possible that things are happening a little bit too fast for people, and that it's shaping. I mean, it's not just social media for me. It's the whole. It's part of globalization, the development of technologies, and the risks that involve that. So it's such a vast subject. Social media in itself is not a bad thing. It can connect people. It can connect people from, as you've just said, from all over the world. So we actually get to know each other, maybe break down some barriers about some prejudice about what we think about other people from other parts of the world. And yet, on the other hand, it seems to have taken over a little bit in terms of politically, which is, of course, Mark Zuckerberg, when he first started, I'm sure didn't have any intentions of that whatsoever, but it has now such a massive influence on people's life, and people get frustrated. I mean, on Facebook, okay, I mean, let's be honest, I mean, Becky's on Facebook with me, and a few other people from whatever, but people get upset if they get kicked out as friends. I mean, it's a I mean, no offense, but sometimes I just I mean, I might kick somebody out, and I had somebody who was really upset. I didn't even think about it. It was just I hadn't been in contact for a long time. I thought, it's not important, and I think that's ridiculous. I mean, it isn't. Facebook is maybe part of your life, but it shouldn't take over. It shouldn't be your life. That's not the way I see it. And it's absolutely okay if somebody doesn't immediately respond to a message on WhatsApp or all the other things. In my opinion, that's absolutely fine. Of course, it's nice. It reaffirms that there may be in inverted commas like you or whatever, but it can have. I don't know with Facebook and I mean Google Plus never really took hold, but with Facebook it has an enormous influence on people's life. Probably too much, in my opinion. Probably too much.
No, I definitely agree. And when you were saying, okay, maybe someone unfriended you, like, well, what did I do? And then they get, you get angry or something, or the other person gets angry, and it's not because of anything. Or I know someone who stops at like 100 people, for example, on Facebook, and he doesn't want any more friends than that. And that's fine. So once he gets to that 100 number, then he all of a sudden deletes people. So, it doesn't have to be, and he's from England. I don't know if it's sharing that. I don't think that's funny, but I think that's my personality. I mean, I don't know. I have people on there from middle school, and of course I don't talk to them, but I'm interested in seeing what they're doing in their lives. So it's a little bit different. And because I live far away from my friends and family, it helps me feel more connected to them. So we all have our own uses of Facebook, for example, or other social media. WhatsApp is fantastic. Other opinions.
What about you, Rafa? What's your opinion about Facebook?
I think it's a controversial issue because, at least in my opinion, there are many advantages about how you could be connected, how do you know everything about your old friends and people who you never and from the high school or something like that. But there are another side of the coin. I think we are this company a lot of information. We are permitting them to have knowledge about where we are, what are we doing, what are we buying, what are we thinking, what are we saying to my old friend. And there are so much information. This is 30 years ago, as you were telling before. It's impossible to imagine what this kind of big data, big information that they are having. And it depends how they manage, how this company manage this information. Could be so dangerous because Facebook know everything about you. Almost he knows thinking right now because you are WhatsApping to your friend, and they got right now, and who knows what they can do about with this whole information. And also there is, I was reading about another article about how Facebook could manage this information. Only the information about you. They have the information, you and your groups of friends and different groups that you are in contact with them, and how they manage tendencies, opinions, political influence, political ideas. Could be so dangerous.
Okay. Good. Other comments? Alex, Ken, Wellington.
Hi guys. So
Hi.
I agree with you. I agree with Rafa. We are living in a world where we put all our informations on the medias. When we use Facebook and the others, we are telling them who we are. But at the same time, we right now we are telling to the world what we think about. I believe that it is. I believe that we live in an era where communication can, in the same time, easier the things, transform the world to the better and to the worse. And with the communication, with the informations that we that are there on Facebook and on internet, I believe that there are opportunities to use this kind of information to improve the world in a way that never ever was done. Of course, there are behind the media, the Facebook and other medias, there are some interests, many interests. We know that these people, the owners, the investors, they want money. They want to manage to handle the people to profit, of course. How to avoid this? I don't know. To be closer to the world, not to use this kind of media. I believe that it is impossible. I believe that we have to force the government to do, our government, the government of every country, is to regulate the media in a way to protect ourselves and independent of what we write in a comment, for example, this or that can't be used against you. I believe that what have to be used in favor or against you is your acts. There is a song here in Brazil. The name is palavras são palavras. Words are words. Sometimes we say something, or maybe we write something in a comment, and we are writing a thought about what we read about this subject, and sometimes this was written for a specific subject and in a specific time. What I think is this. So they have our informations. We are awareness about this. We have to be we have to be careful about what we put there, but at the same time, and more important, I believe that are the rules, and we have to force in a way, I don't know how, that the congressmen, our lawmakers do their job in a way to protect us.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree too, to a certain extent, with some of these things. I agree Facebook can be very good, very positive. I also agree that it can be negative for other reasons. However, and this is a controversial issue, I have two kind of comments. In English, we have a statement that says actions speak louder than words. And so even though words on Facebook are very strong, because we don't post videos of ourselves all the time, at least I don't, and so that kind of depends. That's debatable, I think. However, I want to mention in China, for example, they can't use Facebook. Supposedly, the government blocks Facebook and other social media. They have their own kind of version of Skype. They have their own version of Facebook for China only. What do you think about that? Is that fair? And anyone can comment.
Can I?
Yeah.
On Verbling, the place where I met Aka and other guys, and so we had there some Chinese guys study English, and they got how to block. They got crossed this the block is the wall fires, right? Wall fires, and I think that they only did this because they were not happy with that situation, with this situation. If it's fair or not, for our vision, maybe it's not fair. It's like for me to go abroad for some places, like to the United States or other places, I have to have a visa. Okay, I believe that sometimes they feel the same way. To go to the internet, to travel through the internet, you have to cross a wall fire, and if not, they are like in jail inside of the China, and they can't know what is happening in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, for my
That's the point.
yeah, for my vision, is not fair, of course, but yeah, it's complicated. It's very complicated.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I have another saying here about the Chinese being able to break those firewalls. If there's a will, there's a way. So if you want to do something so bad, you will find a way. And I know that they have, I don't even know, some codes for people that go to visit China, for example, that they can still use social media while in China, even though it's technically illegal. So there are ways, of course. But other opinions, should the government decide if you're able to use social media? As far as visas, I understand I had to get a visa to go to Brazil, but not for Mexico, for example. So that the visa, I understand that goes per country. But Thomas, I couldn't hear you. It looked like you were speaking, but I didn't hear you. VPNs, that's the word. No, I can't hear you now. Can anyone hear Thomas, or is it just me?
No, not now. No, now.
Okay. Uh-oh, Thomas has a problem. Ken, I'd like your opinion about this, and then went about.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
What was the question? Question. What is the question?
About social media, do you think the government should control social media in such a way that China does? For an example, there are other countries that do similar things.
Government should not control social media because it's our privacy issue. Maybe how can I say? But I think some people in China using this technology, to pass through the firewalls. Also, it's very difficult to fully control our internet. Also, even though Japan has no censorship on the internet, but some manipulation could be happening from the mass media or big corporation or so-called big brother kind of thing. So I think we need to be careful about it. But Chinese case is very obvious because everybody in China, outside, inside China, know or their internet is controlled. Also, since China is big, so it's many people know it, but some country actually in the world actually doing the same policy. I guess I don't know which country, but maybe there is a will, there is a way. If the people need a free internet, maybe it's almost impossible to control that by the government or the big corporation, whatever. In the end, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't think that the government should control our personal lives. So good. Rafa, would you like to comment?
I think, at least in one point, is the same dog with different color. If I can say, is the same, but in the Western game, because political governments are trying to control what's happening in the media. It's the same issue with different color. But about Western countries, we are allowed to think, allowed to communicate with others. Perhaps in China could be different. This is the bad point. But we need to take in account China is coming to now. I think 30 years ago, it was so close. China was a communist country with no permission, with no allowing to population to have contact with others, to have information from other countries. But China is improving, is coming to the Western culture in a better way, I think.
Well, and that's a good topic as well. Is just because, for example, the United States is a relatively powerful country, but if you think about it, 60 years ago, it was okay to have slaves. Okay, women couldn't vote. I don't know how many years ago. And so you have to think of the progression since the country maybe came to be. Or, for example, the whole women voting thing or women's rights is a big topic these days. Sure, I agree with it. However, I saw a video on Facebook that I didn't necessarily agree with, obviously, because of the topic. It's about women who are beat by their husbands, and so the women or the men hit their wives and kick them, and the women say that's okay. And I thought, wow, that's shocking. You know, and they're saying, well, it shows that they're a man and that we need to respect them. Now, I'm torn on this for many reasons, but the main thing is first that women, in my opinion, should have equal rights as men. However, it's their tradition and their culture. And so where do you mix, you know, their tradition and their lifestyle with, let's say, my opinion? Because I grew up in a different country, I have different opinions. So, you know, what were women wearing, you know, head turbans or something, or hijabs? I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, probably. But I'm just saying that, for example, Muslim women cannot wear their typical Muslim or their swimwear to go swimming because it covers their shoulders and their heads. And now France says you can't do that because it shows that you're religion. And so who has the right to, you know, say I can't do something because of your religion or something like that? So opinions about this? I know I said multiple things, but anything that you'd like to comment on?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Very good. I think that's a too difficult subject at the moment. I think to go into too much detail about, you know, there are pros and cons. I mean, what is equal rights? What isn't? For example, I worked in a hospital. We have a uniform, which everybody had to abide by. There wasn't a difference between, you know, whatever religion, but of course it didn't fit with every religion. So it's a tricky subject, and I don't really have an answer. I mean, I would like people to be as free to follow their pursuits in whichever form they would like, unless, you know, they're hurting other people with that pursuit. So that's sort of my opinion about it, but it is a very tricky subject.
Yeah, I should have said that at the beginning of the class. However, it's very controversial too, and I don't mean to kind of say what women should have all the rights. No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying.
Oh, why not?
Well, yeah, right. That's the other question.
You're surrounded here by 4 men, so you're definitely allowed to say that.
You know, but I'm also saying is maybe because I think something is incorrect doesn't mean it's incorrect for someone else, like you were saying, you know. And so that's kind of the opinion the opinions I was looking for is, you know, who controls what's fair and what's not fair? Who controls what I want to do and don't want to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Any other comments about that? About 10 minutes left. So if you want to speak, you must do it now. No opinions, that's okay. Or if you don't want to say anything, that's fine too.
In my point of view, how can I say, my individuality is most important, which means I need to respect other people's individuality. So, it's very difficult, complicated problem actually that nowadays it is happening nowadays or even in the past. So, but I cannot control people, so I just say my opinion. Also, I don't force my opinion to others. Also, I don't want others to force me to their opinion. Maybe I want to will keep proper distance from that problem. That's my perspective for that.
Well, because this topic might be too controversial, there's another topic I wanted to mention I forgot about earlier is Thomas mentioned globalization, okay? And so my question is everything's kind of not becoming similar all over the world, but I mean, all these countries, for example, first Brexit happened and they want to go away from Europe. Okay, fine. You can do your own thing. Now, the United States, get all the immigrants out. Well, 99% of us would have to leave. However, Okay, so Thomas, you might be leaving. Okay. But I'm just thinking with all these countries, and we've heard in France it's happening, and in Holland even, there's these leaders that want to say, no, we must stay our original country, and we do not want foreigners. We don't want immigrants here. What do you think about that? I mean, if the world is going towards globalization, and then individual countries say, no, I don't want you here. What do we think about that?
I think right now we are assisting to a kind of nationalism in different countries. In United States with Trump, in Holland with other guys, in France, and also there is a boost with the right parties in Europe in order to preserve or the benefit that white people has, trying to don't allow to immigrants arrive to our countries, and this is a kind of tendency in different continents right now. But I don't agree with this kind of tendency. I think every time all are going to from one country to another in order to be wealthy, in order to richness, in order to get culture, in order to get more information. Right now, the tendency is on the contrary. I think due to the crisis in the Western countries, we need to prevent, we need to go to be thick, but I think on the other side, is my opinion.
And that's what I'm thinking is if the world is, globalizing, if everything's kind of coming together as one, why are the countries now trying to break apart?
Because I think people aren't benefiting from globalization. People compare themselves to other people, because if you're looking at the reality of Western Europe, America, and many other countries, China, people on the whole are better off. Even the poor people on the whole are better off. My grandparents were lucky to have some potatoes and some butter was a luxury. So people are better off. But because people compare themselves to how the other people are living, and there's a lot of people who are now in the middle classes, kind of recently wealthy, not wealthy, but recently okay, like ourselves. Like I can't speak for you, but Becky and myself, I sort of know a little bit. Yeah, okay, maybe not rich, and I think people feel left behind, and it's creating an unbelievable sort of people are pissed off basically about that, and I have no idea what you do about it, but I think it's about that kind of comparing to other people, really, that is starting to be a big problem. And I have absolutely no answer. I'm against racism, and I'm against the kind of populism that's going on, the kind of anti-immigration feeling that's going on across Europe, including Germany. But as Ralph was pointing out, Holland and various other countries around Europe, obviously Britain, it's a big problem. I think it's a big problem. I don't have an answer.
Yeah, here in Spain, Brexit might affect some people just because the English people that are here will have to get their nationality cards. They'll have to become basically Spanish and say, I'm going to denounce that I'm English. Right.
We don't know. I mean, the negotiating, Theresa May's triggering Article 50, which is the process to start negotiations of leaving the European Union. So it's only actually going to start today. nothing actually has happened. Everybody has theoretically the same rights,
Right.
and will have the same rights for the next minimum of the next 2 years. From today, as it happens, for the next 2 years, those rights won't change, at least in theory. So we have to see what they come up with. The worst case scenario is that people will have to take up, the people that live in Spain will have to take up Spanish citizenship. But it's complicated because there are a lot of pensioners who are relying on British healthcare and stuff like that. So it's a complicated issue. But I'm aware we are 2 minutes away from 4 o'clock. So we need to wrap up, really.
All right. Well, Thomas, I see that you've added at least 2 more classes to at least the YouTube thing where I where I enter. And so let me just double check. My next class is on Sunday, and we're talking about money. Okay. So this
I
won't be
like that subject. I'm not there. I'm really sorry. I'm not there. I'm actually visiting a good old friend on 3 o'clock. But money is a great subject. It's money doesn't make you happy,
yes,
but
or does it?
No, it doesn't.
I think to a certain point it can. That's my opinion.
But not enough money, i.e. poverty, makes you unhappy. That's the last part of my sentence.
Okay.
So money doesn't make you happy in itself. There are actually lots of research about it. And, for example, when women buy a pair of shoes or men buy a computer or whatever people do, I'm being very stereotypically, of course. I think the happiness thing lasts for about 2 hours or something like that, let's say. In any way, so in terms of, can you go off air briefly now, because we need to wrap up?
All right.